What time?
4 o'clock?
Fine.
Alrighty.
Religion was humanity's earliest answer. It explained wind and thunder, established moral laws, and even determined the rise and fall of civilizations. But when religion turns extreme, it gives birth to its dark mirror, cults. They cloak themselves in sacred vestments, rituals, scriptures, promises of salvation, yet twist faith into a tool of control. This is precisely why cults are one of horror cinema's most beloved subjects. What makes these stories terrifying is never the supernatural itself, but how humans, in the name of gods, infinitely amplify their selfish desires and drag each other into the abyss. In this video, I want to analyze the role of cults in horror films through several movies, how cults create fear, and why they remain such a prevalent theme in horror even today. Cults serve as an inescapable fate, trapping protagonists in a no-win scenario. In Rosemary's Baby, the cult, Satanists, infiltrates everyday life. Neighbors, doctors, and even Rosemary's husband conspire to deceive her into bearing the Antichrist. Her desperate desire for motherhood ultimately breaks her, and in her devastation, she submits, choosing to live as the mother of the devil. Cults expand the horror beyond the supernatural. In Hereditary, the cult, followers of Paimon, passes its curse through bloodlines. The grandmother manipulates events to turn her grandson into Paimon's vessel, while Annie, desperate to protect her son, flees her mother's influence, only to be ensnared by the cult's meticulously orchestrated tragedies. Whether by choice or coercion, each family member is pulled into the cult's grasp, embodying generational horror, the chilling idea that their fates were sealed long ago. On the expressive level, these films generate unease by distorting sacred symbols, profaning traditional religion to create visceral impact. Religious rituals are twisted into sinister ceremonies. Scripture recitation becomes linguistic manipulation. An inverted crucifix hangs defiantly. Reveals a ballet academy as a coven. They depict collective madness to dismantle individual rationality. The Stanford Prison Experiment proved how groups erode moral judgment, and cult horror weaponizes this. When hell is other people, and those people move as one unified threat, the isolated protagonist has no escape. In Rosemary's Baby, neighbors mask conspiracy with kindness. Rosemary's fleeting hope of freedom only confirms she was never outside the cage. In Midsommar, choral dancing, psychedelics, and ritualized smiles dissolve autonomy, dressing violence in utopian guise. The fusion of realism and surrealism. Cult horror feels uniquely immersive because cults exist. The Jonestown mass suicide, Aum Shinrikyo's subway attacks, these real atrocities whisper to audiences, this could happen to you. Fear thrives in that liminal space between documented history and cinematic nightmare. In storytelling, what truly matters are characters' want and need, and cults are essentially the exaggerated manifestation of unchecked human desires. Cults serve as a medium for the sanctification of desire. By cloaking primal human cravings, power, immortality, the need to be loved, in the guise of divine mission, cultists grant themselves moral impunity. Under the banner of faith, even atrocities become justified. Evil is ordained by God, and all I receive is His blessing. In Rosemary's Baby, Rosemary's longing for motherhood is exploited by the cult, twisting her into accepting the role of the Antichrist's mother. But when desire mutates into obsession, it distorts beyond recognition. At its core, cult horror reveals how easily humans, once freed from rational constraints, willingly surrender to collective madness. Imagine the protagonist's perspective. Surrounded by people who, under the guise of faith, abandon societal morals to persecute others for their own ends. In The Wicker Man, the islanders fabricate lies to lure their chosen sacrifice to a fiery death, all in the name of tradition. Cults are humanity's dark laboratory. The most monstrous demons never emerge from hell, they fester in the corners of our minds we dare not confront. Moreover, the enduring relevance of cults in horror cinema is tied to the thematic complexity they embody. Cult horror films transcend mere depictions of cults, they lay bare systems of power, familial oppression, and gendered violence. The home, once a sanctuary, becomes a sacrificial altar. By distorting familial bonds, these films expose how blood ties can foster violence.
Don't you swear at me, you little
shit!
Here, the family is no longer a haven but the smallest unit of cult infiltration, mirroring the collapse of domestic structures in reality. Rosemary's Baby takes this further. The husband's conspiracy with neighbors turns marriage into a complicit framework for cult predation. Cults also weaponize religion to justify the systemic control of female bodies, sanctifying gendered exploitation. In Rosemary's Baby, Rosemary's womb is appropriated by the cult, a violent erasure of bodily autonomy. In X, an aging woman employs cult rituals to retaliate against youth, transforming age-based insecurity into brutality. In Hereditary, reducing motherhood to a ritual obligation. These films expose cults as patriarchal religious collusion, sanctifying gendered oppression in the name of divinity. Cult horror magnifies systemic oppression from our reality. The most terrifying horror never stems from supernatural demons, but from belief systems that instrumentalize humanity. When religion becomes an alibi for violence, when family degenerates into a breeding ground for control, when love and faith are twisted into shackles, that is the horror that truly chills us to the bone.